Imagine for a second that you're just the absolute wonder kind of your industry. Like you're the youngest self-made billionaire on the planet.
Right, living the absolute dream.
Exactly. And you're running this highly successful startup. Everyone calls it the Switzerland of AI because
Mm.
you're providing, the crucial data labeling infrastructure.
The foundational picks and shovels.
Yeah, the picks and shovels for literally everyone else in this space. I mean, from OpenAI to Anthropic to Google.
Yeah.
You're sitting at the absolute center of the tech universe. You're reading the key leaves perfectly,
Yeah.
dictating terms, and then
You just vanish.
you vanish. And suddenly you just disappear from the public eye. You go into hiding for 10 entire months.
Which is an eternity in AI right now.
It really is. And when you finally emerge, you aren't the captain of your nimble hyper-growth startup anymore. You are now the leader of a massive, super secretive new initiative buried deep inside one of the world's largest, most heavily scrutinized tech conglomerates.
It is an incredible pivot. I mean, it's the kind of maneuver that forces you to completely recalibrate your understanding of where the entire industry is heading.
Oh, 100%.
Because when someone with that level of leverage abandons ship, it's not for some marginal gain. It's because they've seen something either terrifying or just awe-inspiring on the horizon.
And that is exactly what I was thinking when I was reading through this exclusive interview transcript. It came across my desk from the Core Memory podcast.
Yeah, a great source.
They managed to sit down with Wang, the former CEO and co-founder of Scale AI, who, like we said, has been completely off the grid for the past 10 months.
Right.
He has just officially emerged as the chief of Meta's artificial intelligence efforts. And reading this felt like, I don't know, getting access to a completely different operational playbook.
Oh, definitely. He maps out this incredibly ambitious blueprint for what they're calling superintelligence at Meta.
Yeah, and the mission for our deep dive today is to decode exactly how these technologies are being designed right now, like behind closed doors, because they are being built to fundamentally rewire the digital infrastructure of your daily life.
And what makes this text so compelling is the sheer breadth of what Wang is managing now. He's not just talking about, tweaking a recommendation algorithm for Instagram Reels.
No, not at all.
The conversation spans the logistics of amassing literally sovereign nation levels of computing power.
Yeah.
It covers ruthless billion-dollar recruiting wars tearing through Silicon Valley, and even the geopolitical ramifications of open sourcing models.
Models that have advanced cyber and biological capabilities, right?
Exactly. And to really understand his strategy, you have to look through his specific geopolitical lens, particularly his views on national security and global competition.
Which we will definitely get into.
Oh.
And just to set some rules here before we dive in, the interview does touch heavily on U.S.-China geopolitics and the Chinese Communist Party. And I want to make it crystal clear to everyone listening that we are going to impartially report what is in this source material.
Yeah, we are not taking sides or endorsing any political viewpoints here. We are purely analyzing Wang's statements to understand his strategy.
Exactly. So, okay, let's unpack this. I want to start with the catalyst for this entire disappearance act.
The why.
Right. Because to understand what Meta is actually building, we first have to understand why Wang would walk away from Scale AI to join an organization with, like, 80,000 employees.
It's a huge shift in culture.
Massive.
Yeah.
And according to the interview, the entire pivot happened about a year ago during a meeting in Lake Tahoe between Wang and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, the Tahoe meeting.
And the specific phrase that jokes out from the transcript is that Zuckerberg had become AGI-pilled.
Yeah, and that phrase, it carries a lot of weight in these circles.
What does that actually imply, though? Because it sounds like an internet meme.
It does, but it implies a total paradigm shift. It's not just recognizing that large language models are, a good business opportunity. Becoming AGI-pilled implies a deep, unshakable conviction that artificial general intelligence is coming.
So systems capable of outperforming humans across every cognitive task.
Right, and not only that it's possible, but that it's imminent. When a CEO of a trillion-dollar company adopts that mindset, it changes capital allocation entirely.
You stop caring about the quarterly ad revenue.
Exactly. You start building for an existential, once-in-a-lifetime technological threshold.
But Meta already had AI researchers. I mean, they had FAIR. They were building early versions of Llama.
Yeah, but Wang even points out in the interview that Meta's previous efforts just weren't on the frontier, like they were lagging.
So they have this open-ended brainstorm in Tahoe. But looking at this from the outside, Wang trading his startup for Meta just feels wrong to me.
How so?
Well, he was famous for his agility. Trading the captain's chair of a nimble, state-of-the-art speedboat
Yeah.
for, like, a navigation console on a massive aircraft carrier seems like a massive
It was supposed
compromise.
to look like that.
I mean, I struggle to see the incentive to give up your autonomy, your equity structure, and your cultural control just to wear a corporate badge at Menlo Park.
It looks like a compromise until you look at the physical reality of what it actually takes to train a frontier model today.
Okay.
Wang's realization, and really the core thesis that drove this move, is rooted in what we should call the compute divide.
The compute divide.
Yeah. During those 10 months of observing the accelerating scaling laws of AI, Wang realized the entire tech ecosystem was undergoing this violent, irreversible stratification.
Meaning what, exactly?
Meaning the era of a few brilliant engineers in a garage disrupting an industry with clever software architecture that's functionally over in the AI space.
Because clever architecture doesn't mean anything if you don't have the juice to run it.
Exactly. Wang argues that going forward, you have to divide the tech world strictly into two camps: companies with massive compute and companies without it.
And you need a lot of it now.
To build the next generation of models, you need staggering, mind-boggling amounts of physical hardware. We are talking about clusters of hundreds of thousands of highly specialized GPUs.
Which draw an insane amount of power.
Enough megawatts to power mid-sized cities. They require advanced liquid cooling infrastructure or dedicated power plants.
So even though Wang was running scale AI, even though he had the data, the talent, and the cash flow of a highly successful enterprise, he was essentially locked out of the endgame.
Right. He could provide the data labeling for the frontier models, but he couldn't actually build the superintelligence himself.
Because he simply didn't have the sheer tonnage of silicon required.
He was sitting in the speedboat realizing that a Category 5 hurricane was coming and only the aircraft carriers were going to survive.
Wow. That is a wild way to look at it.
Zuckerberg, having been AGI-pilled, was willing to write the blank checks to amass that literal mountain of GPUs. Wang recognized that Meta had the capital expenditure capacity to build the physical infrastructure that AGI demands.
He traded his autonomy because the barrier to entry has moved from having a revolutionary algorithmic idea to having tens of billions of dollars in sovereign-grade infrastructure.
Yes.
There's a detail in the interview that perfectly captures this shift from, the ethereal software mindset to the heavy industrial reality of modern AI.
The part about where he lives now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wang talks about his own lifestyle shift, like he was a classic San Francisco startup guy, living in the city, operating in that distributed agile mindset.
Right.
But to take on this role, he fully committed to the meta reality. He moved down to the South Bay. He lives in Palo Alto now.
Yep.
And for him, the big city experience is just walking down University Avenue to grab a boba.
It's quite the change.
He uprooted his entire life to be physically tethered to the headquarters in Menlo Park and the hardware infrastructure. It's total immersion.
It highlights the centralization of power in this new era. And if we extrapolate what this compute divide means for you, the listener, it's quite profound.
How so?
Well, the tools you rely on, the digital assistants that will manage your scheduling, the cognitive engines that will run your company's logistics, they're going to be consolidated among a very small handful of mega corporations.
Because nobody else can foot the bill?
Exactly. The physical cost of intelligence is so high that only 3 or 4 entities on Earth can afford to manufacture it at the frontier. The democratization of AI access might increase, but the production of the foundational intelligence is becoming a massive oligopoly.
Purely dictated by capital and energy constraints.
Yes.
That is a staggering concentration of power.
Yeah.
So Wang secures the compute. He's got Zuckerberg's backing and a mountain of GPUs. But as we've seen with countless corporate mega projects, having the hardware is only like 10% of the battle.
Oh, absolutely.
Organizing the human beings to actually write the code, optimize the distributed training runs, and push the scientific frontier without getting bogged down in corporate bureaucracy is the real challenge.
And that brings us to the creation of MSL.
Meta Superintelligence Labs.
Right. And the architecture of MSL is fascinating because Wang states it is built on a fundamental, unshakable conviction.
What's that?
He noted that at a lot of big tech companies, you have incredibly smart people working on AI, but they lack urgency.
Yeah, they treat it like just another feature update.
Exactly. Better search results, slightly improved ad targeting. Wang had to completely reset the culture to operate on the core premise that superintelligence is a fast-approaching reality, not a theoretical research project.
And to force that velocity, Wang basically carved Meta Superintelligence Labs into these highly specialized, almost militaristic factions.
Yes, the breakdown he gives in the interview is pretty dense. First, you have TPD.
Right, to be determined.
It's the somewhat infamous large model research lab directly under Wang's purview. This is the engine room. This is where the heavy lifting of frontier model training happens. They deal with the brutal realities of distributed training, node failures, and pushing the scaling laws to their absolute limits.
Then you have PAR, which stands for Product and Applied Research. This is headed up by Nat Friedman.
Who is a massive name in the open source and developer tools space.
Yeah, huge name. And their mandate is to take the raw, latent intelligence generated by TBD and shape it into products that can actually be deployed to billions of users.
Yeah.
They build the scaffolding around the raw brain.
Right. And following that is FAIR, the fundamental AI research wing.
Which has been around at Meta for a while, right?
It has, but its role is distinct here. While TBD is aggressively pushing the current paradigm of large language models, FAIR is looking 5 to 10 years down the line.
So they're more exploratory.
Very exploratory. The interview notes they are tackling massive scientific challenges, like using AI to understand human brain activity and computationally modeling chemistry to build a universal model for atoms.
Which sounds like absolute science fiction. A universal model for atoms.
I know.
And fueling all of this, you have Meta Compute, led by Daniel Gross.
His entire mandate is long-term infrastructure planning.
Right. When TBD says they need 100,000 H100s in 2 years, Gross is the one negotiating with energy grids and supply chains to make sure the data centers physically exist.
Exactly. And overarching all of this is their chief scientist, Shenza, managing the broader scientific agenda.
But I have to stop right here, because Wang paints this picture of a beautifully structured, mission-driven laboratory running like a Swiss watch.
Right.
But the reality of how they built this team was chaotic. The external perception was that Meta was acting like an absolute mercenary force in Silicon Valley.
Oh, the talent war was, and remains, completely unprecedented. You had reports of Meta throwing out compensation packages that completely broke the standard Silicon Valley pay scale.
Yeah, they were aggressively poaching top-tier researchers from OpenAI, Google DeepMind, Anthropic.
And the interview even brings up the rumor that Mark Zuckerberg was personally making soup for potential recruits to woo them.
Wait, really? Like actually cooking them soup?
Well, Wang is coy about it. He says he doesn't know if Zuckerberg literally made the soup, but he admits the recruiting process was intensely personalized and aggressive.
Okay, so my question is, how does Wang square this external narrative? How do you take a bunch of mercenaries who were bought with massive corporate payouts and forge them into a nimble, mission-driven lab?
It's a great question.
Usually, when you throw massive corporate money at a problem, you get bloat, politics, and stagnation.
Wang addresses this friction directly. He calls the external perception a narrative violation of their internal reality.
A narrative violation.
Yeah. He explains that to catch up to the frontier, because Meta was behind, he had to build a team yesterday. The blitz recruiting was a necessary tactical maneuver.
Right, you just have to get the bodies in the door?
But you cannot retain top 0.1% talent just with money. Eventually, the work itself has to be compelling. So Wang implemented 3 specific pillars to ensure MSL functioned with the velocity of a startup.
Let's break down those pillars, because this is honestly a masterclass in organizational design.
The first pillar is crucial: high compute per researcher.
Okay.
At a lot of legacy tech companies, they might possess a massive amount of total compute, but it is democratized across thousands of engineers and hundreds of disparate projects.
So the individual researcher gets bottlenecked waiting for their jobs to run.
Exactly. Wang promised his recruits concentrated, unparalleled power. He guaranteed that if you join MSL, you will not be waiting in a queue to test your hypotheses.
Which is the ultimate bait for an AI researcher. It's like telling a Formula One driver you're handing them the keys to a car with no engine restrictions.
Perfect analogy. The second pillar is extreme talent density.
Meaning keep the team small.
Yes. Wang adheres to the philosophy that a tiny team of exceptionally brilliant individuals, what he terms a cracked team, will always outmaneuver a massive distributed organization.
So keeping it lean reduces the communication overhead.
And prevents the dilution of ideas. And the third pillar is ambitious research bets. He gave these top-tier minds the mandate to take massive swings.
They aren't just tweaking the newsfeed algorithm.
Right. They aren't tasked with optimizing click-through rates by a fraction of a percent. They're tasked with changing the underlying paradigm of artificial intelligence.
What's fascinating here is how he's insulating a startup within the shell of a multi-trillion-dollar company.
It really is.
He even mentions that visitors from other elite labs tell him the culture at MSL feels exactly like the early scrappy days of OpenAI or Anthropic.
And if you think about standard workplace dynamics, this is the holy grail.
Oh, yeah. How often does bloated corporate structure with its endless compliance reviews and matrix management just completely paralyze innovation?
Almost always.
Meta is trying to prove that you can wield the bottomless capital of a tech conglomerate while maintaining the raw, chaotic velocity of a nascent startup.
The theory is sound, but as you know, execution is everything. They assembled the talent, they secured the compute, and they established the culture.
Right.
The inevitable question is, what is the output? After 10 months of going dark and restructuring the entire foundation of Meta's AI efforts, what did they actually deliver?
And that brings us to the release of their new model, Muse Spark.
Yes.
And Wang's positioning of this release is highly deliberate. He explicitly manages expectations by stating that Muse Spark is not their flagship world-conquering model.
Right, he doesn't claim it's the AGI they've been promising.
No. He uses a very specific culinary metaphor. He calls Muse Spark an appetizer.
And by calling it an appetizer, he's signaling that the main course, the massively scaled frontier model, is still training.
Makes sense.
The real story of those 10 months wasn't just shipping a single product to appease the public. It was a brutal, ground-up renovation of Meta's underlying architecture.
They basically stripped everything down to the studs.
They did. They completely rebuilt their pre-training stacks, their data curation pipelines, their reinforcement learning frameworks.
But the interviewers challenge him on this, and I think it's a vital point.
Exactly.
When Muse Spark dropped, it didn't obliterate the competition. Like, critics and researchers on X were pointing out that it missed the mark on several key industry benchmarks compared to the latest models from OpenAI or Anthropic.
It did.
If the result of this massive restructuring is a model that doesn't definitively take the crown, why is Wang projecting such immense confidence? What is the actual win here?
Well, the victory isn't in the raw benchmark score. It's in the underlying mechanics of how that score was achieved. It comes down to a highly technical but absolutely critical concept: token efficiency.
Token efficiency. Let's translate that for everyone, because token efficiency is basically the secret war being fought right now.
It is.
We don't need to define exactly what a token is mathematically,
Right.
but we need to understand why burning fewer of them to get the right answer changes the economics of AI.
Right. So think about the underlying architecture of these models. If your fundamental data pipeline is noisy or your reinforcement learning framework is slightly misaligned, your model develops structural flaws.
It's a bit wobbly from the start.
Exactly. To compensate for those flaws, other labs have to rely on brute force. They patched the problem by deploying advanced inference techniques, essentially forcing the model to churn through vastly more tokens.
So they let it think longer.
Yes, burning massive amounts of GPU cycles just to arrive at the correct logic. It's like an engine with terrible compression. You can still go fast, but you have to dump an absurd amount of fuel into the cylinder to do it.
Okay, so Wang is saying that instead of hacking the inference layer to cover up bad architecture, Meta spent 10 months building a perfectly tuned engine.
Precisely. Because they rebuilt everything from scratch with the highest talent density possible, their foundation is remarkably clean.
A clean stack.
Right. Muse Spark is highly efficient because the model isn't fighting against its own underlying architecture. It arrives at the correct reasoning path directly without needing to burn excess compute to double-check its own flawed logic.
And this clean architecture resulted in some wild, unprogrammed behaviors.
The emergent capabilities.
Yeah. The interview details how Muse Spark developed these emergent capabilities during its training run. The researchers didn't explicitly program it to do these things.
But because the foundation was so solid and the multimodal integration was so tight, the model just intuitively figured it out.
Which is wild. Wang notes that Muse Spark suddenly displayed advanced agentic visual coding, like it was autonomously building functional websites and generating video games from scratch simply by looking at visual prompts.
And those emergent capabilities validate the clean stack theory. But the most terrifying and important takeaway from the Muse Spark release is a concept Wang introduces called predictable scaling.
Right. And this is the actual weapon they've forged. Predictable scaling means they aren't guessing anymore.
Exactly. Training frontier models historically has involved a lot of dark arts and guesswork.
Like alchemy.
Yeah. You throw $1 billion of compute at a model and hold your breath, hoping it converges and doesn't collapse during the run. But because Meta's stack is now incredibly clean and efficient, they have established a rigorous mathematical predictability. They can draw a straight line on a graph.
So they know exactly what they're getting.
They know exactly what level of intelligence they will achieve for every additional gigawatt of power and dollar of compute they inject into the system.
Wow.
If the appetizer is this capable and structurally sound, Wang is signaling that when they turn the compute dial to the absolute maximum for the main course.
The resulting intelligence will be mathematically guaranteed to shock the industry.
Exactly.
So they've built a reliable factory for intelligence. They have the compute, the cracked team, the clean stack, and the scaling laws dialed in.
The machine is fully operational.
But we have to ask, to what end? Like, Meta is not an academic research institution.
No, they are very much a consumer tech company beholden to shareholders.
They aren't building these multi-billion-dollar models just to publish papers or win arguments on Twitter. They intend to integrate this intelligence into the physical and digital lives of billions of active users.
Which pivots the conversation directly into Wang's overarching vision for how this technology alters society. He outlines a concept he calls the agent economy.
The agent economy.
Yeah. The North Star for all this infrastructure isn't just a smarter chatbot. It's what Wang terms personal superintelligence. His ultimate goal is the absolute democratization of agency.
Okay, so he envisions an ecosystem where not just massive corporations, but everyday consumers and the hundreds of millions of small businesses operating across Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp are empowered by autonomous AI agents.
Exactly.
I want to build out a hypothetical to show how radical this shift is.
Sure, go for it.
Imagine a local mom-and-pop plumbing supply business. They have great inventory, but their back-end logistics are run on an Excel spreadsheet from, like, 2014, and their website is practically non-existent.
Pretty common scenario.
Right. They can't afford a logistics coordinator, a marketing agency, or an IT department. In Wang's agent economy, Meta provisions that small business with a bespoke AI agent.
And what does the agent do?
This agent instantly analyzes their inventory, autonomously negotiates supply chain bottlenecks with vendors via email, builds and deploys targeted ad campaigns, and handles customer service inquiries in real time.
Wow.
It instantly grants a 3-person operation the operational capacity of a Fortune 500 company.
It completely flattens the operational landscape. And to understand the philosophical divergence here, the interview contrasts Wang's vision with that of Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic.
Oh, this is a great comparison.
Amodei has publicly described the future of AGI as essentially a country of geniuses in a data center.
Like locking the smartest theoretical physicists, biologists, and engineers in a virtual room and telling them to cure cancer or solve nuclear fusion.
Yes, it's a highly centralized, top-down view of superintelligence acting as like a scientific god mind.
Right.
Wang is proposing a deeply decentralized alternative, an economy of agents in a data center. Instead of just tackling grand scientific bottlenecks, Wang sees billions of highly capable AI agents mediating the mundane, everyday transactions of human existence.
So your personal agent knows your preferences and budget.
Right. It negotiates directly with the plumbing supply company's agent to source a part, schedule the repair, handle the payment protocol. It fundamentally rewrites how supply and demand function, removing the friction from the global economy.
The theory is incredibly compelling.
Yeah.
But I have to inject a massive dose of reality here, and the interviewers pushed Wang aggressively on this exact point.
As they should.
Because right now, in the real world, consumer sentiment around AI integration is largely cynical.
It's true.
People often find it intrusive, unreliable, or just a desperate corporate gimmick. I mean, think about your own daily habits. When was the last time you purposefully utilized the Meta AI button that's sitting right there in your WhatsApp search bar?
Most users actively ignore it.
Yeah. Even the interviewers admitted they use specialized tools like Claude or ChatGPT for complex work tasks, but completely bypass Meta's consumer-facing AI features. If people are annoyed by the current AI in their social media feeds, how does Wang justify spending tens of billions to build an agent economy they might actively reject?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Wang acknowledges this friction entirely, and his diagnosis of the problem is fascinating. He points out that the industry is currently trapped in a state of product overhang.
Product overhang, meaning the raw underlying technology has vastly outpaced the user interfaces we've built to access it.
Exactly. The intelligence is there, but the form factor is wrong. Wang observes that for software engineers, the AI revolution is already mature.
Yeah, they use it all the time.
Developers using advanced coding agents have experienced a profound shift in their workflow. They have massive personal agency to spin up complex architectures in a weekend that previously took months.
They have had their definitive aha moment where the technology became indispensable.
But the average consumer, the teacher, the plumber, the small business owner, has not experienced that moment.
Right. Shoving a text box into a messaging app doesn't make someone feel empowered. It makes them feel like they are talking to a rigid database.
Until AI stops feeling like an awkward command line interface and starts feeling like an intuitive, proactive sidekick that genuinely removes cognitive load, consumer adoption will remain sluggish.
And this is where the hardware strategy becomes the critical bridge. The transcript highlights the massive, unexpected success of the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses.
A huge hit.
Wang views this type of ambient hardware as the key to shattering the product overhang. He doesn't want you typing prompts. He wants a constellation of sensors around you so the agent can see what you see and hear what you hear in real time.
It becomes deeply contextual.
Right. Imagine you're at the grocery store. You look at a specific cut of meat. You don't pull out your phone and type, "Give me a recipe."
The agent, whispering through the glasses, instantly cross-references the visual input with the known inventory of your smart fridge at home.
And suggests a meal plan while routing you to the correct aisle for the remaining ingredients. It fades completely in the background of your life.
It's the ultimate frictionless interface. But taking a super intelligent multimodal AI and physically attaching it to the faces of 1 billion people via cameras and microphones?
Yeah, that introduces an absolutely terrifying risk profile.
Deploying intelligence at this scale forces Meta to navigate an incredibly complex, high-stakes ideological and geopolitical tightrope.
Which is where the strategy takes a sharp turn. Because historically, Meta has been the undisputed champion of the open source philosophy in AI.
Right, they released the llama weights for free.
They built the Open Compute project. Their entire corporate ethos in this space has been about commoditizing the model layer and letting the global developer ecosystem innovate on top of it.
But the interview reveals a massive pivot regarding Muse Spark and the future frontier models.
Wang explicitly confirms that Muse Spark, in its raw, unredacted form, is not being open-sourced.
And the reason is rooted entirely in safety and national security.
Yeah. As part of their advanced AI scaling framework, Meta puts these models through rigorous adversarial red teaming. Wang states that Muse Spark crossed specific thresholds, triggering red flags regarding its capabilities in biological synthesis, chemical engineering, and advanced cyber warfare.
And he mentions a specific metric that is just chilling: loss of control.
Just sit with the implications of that phrase in a corporate safety document: loss of control.
They are evaluating whether the model possesses the agentic capability to deceive its operators,
Or rewrite its own constraints.
or proliferate itself across servers without authorization. When a model demonstrates the latent capacity for loss of control, open sourcing the raw weights is no longer a philosophical debate.
It's a profound security hazard.
Wang insists they are developing highly distilled, safer versions to release to the open source community to honor their commitment. But the raw power of the frontier model is being heavily fortified and locked down.
And this shift from open source idealism to lockdown security protocols bleeds directly into the geopolitical realities that Wang views as paramount.
To truly understand Wang's strategy here, you have to look through his specific geopolitical lens. He views the race to AGI entirely as a high-stakes national security scenario.
Right. And long before his time at Meta, Wang spent significant time in Washington, D.C., aggressively ringing the alarm bell.
He did.
In the interview, he discusses his long-standing warnings that the Chinese Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army have historically treated artificial intelligence not just as a commercial sector, but as a critical military and strategic domain.
He even took out full-page newspaper ads in the past, urging the U.S. government to treat the development of AI with the gravity of a technological Cold War.
And again, just to reiterate our rule from earlier, we're impartially reporting what Wang stated in the source material.
Right, we're just analyzing his viewpoint, not taking a geopolitical stance ourselves.
Exactly. So it's a harsh, zero-sum view of global technological supremacy. But the host of the podcast poses a very sharp, challenging question to Wang.
Yeah, about Meta's global footprint.
How does he reconcile this intense, national security-focused rhetoric regarding China with his current operational reality at Meta? Meta is an inherently global corporation. They rely heavily on a massive, distributed global workforce.
And the interview surfaces a specific, highly nuanced deal called M&A in Singapore.
Right. Where Meta was allegedly building strategic ties with a Chinese startup ecosystem. The host pushes him. Isn't your DC rhetoric fundamentally contradicting Meta's globalized business practices?
Wang's defense relies on drawing a very firm line in the sand. He argues that you must analytically separate the strategic ambitions of a state-level actor from the individual brilliance and humanity of its citizens.
Okay.
He notes that his own parents immigrated from China, and he explicitly states how incredibly fortunate he feels to collaborate with world-class Chinese researchers and engineers across the globe.
But he fiercely maintains that leveraging global talent is entirely separate from recognizing and countering state-level geopolitical competition.
Exactly. He describes the current state of frontier AI development as operating within the fog of war.
The fog of war and knowledge.
Yes. When you are training models at the scale of MuSpark and beyond, you aren't just writing software. You are conducting massive, unprecedented experiments to map out unknown cognitive territory.
You are discovering the actual limits of machine reasoning.
And Wang views this mapping process as a critical strategic imperative. Whoever navigates that fog of war and claims the high ground of superintelligence first will possess a decisive, unassailable advantage in global economic and military dynamics.
It is an incredibly heavy, almost suffocating burden to place on a consumer tech company.
It really is.
Because if superintelligence is genuinely a matter of national security, and it possesses deep, actionable knowledge of biology, chemistry, and cyber infrastructure, there's absolutely no way it remains confined to a server rack in Menlo Park.
No, the digital realm is too limiting.
The intelligence is inevitably going to breach the physical world, and eventually, Wang believes, it is going to interface directly with the architecture of the human mind.
Which brings us to the final major theme of the discussion, where the trajectory shifts from contemporary hardware strategy into what genuinely feels like speculative science fiction.
It gets wild here.
We are talking about the physical embodiment of AI through robotics, non-invasive brain-computer interfaces, and the staggering philosophical questions regarding the nature of the intelligence we are creating.
Let's start with a leap from bits to atoms. The interview reveals that Meta recently acquired a highly specialized company called ARI.
Which stands for Assured Robot Intelligence.
Right. They don't manufacture servo motors or metal chassis. They build the cognitive engines for physical hardware. Why is the chief of Meta's digital AI efforts suddenly diverting resources to buy up robotics companies?
Because Wang views physical superintelligence as a natural, unavoidable continuum.
How so?
If you genuinely believe, as Wang clearly does, that you are going to achieve an intelligence that far surpasses human capability within the next few years, it is logically incoherent to assume it will only exist as text on a screen.
Okay, that makes sense.
The ultimate value of intelligence is its ability to manipulate the environment. If your timelines to AGI are that short, you have to begin developing the robotic vessels and the physical reasoning models right now, so they are ready when the digital brain matures.
But I have to throw the brakes on here, because the interviewers push back on this, and anyone looking at Meta's track record has to ask the obvious question.
The metaverse.
Yes. Let's look at their history of bringing digital ecosystems into physical reality. The pivot to the metaverse cost tens of billions of dollars and was met with immense public skepticism.
The hardware was clunky, the adoption was slow,
and the PR baggage was immense. Given that history, why should anyone believe that the public is going to welcome humanoid robots or autonomous drones into their living rooms, built by the same company that struggled to make legless avatars popular? Like, the trust deficit is massive.
It's a highly valid criticism of their historical execution. But Wang counters this by zooming out to a macro-historical perspective. He isn't reacting to the quarterly earnings reports or the metaverse think pieces.
So what is he looking at?
He is betting the company's future on what he identifies as the 3 foundational pillars that will scale to infinity over the long arc of human progress.
Energy, compute, and robots.
Exactly. He views the creation of superintelligence as merely the prerequisite. Once you achieve the cognitive engine, you need the massive energy infrastructure to power it.
The dense compute clusters to process it.
And the robotic labor force to execute its directives in the physical world. He believes that combo will radically accelerate physical manufacturing, scientific discovery, and infrastructure development, fundamentally altering the physical economy, just as the internet altered the information economy.
And the integration doesn't stop at physical robots walking around a factory floor. The interview details active, heavily funded work happening at FAIR, their research wing on advanced BCI, or brain-computer interfaces.
Oh, this part is incredible.
They discuss a specific project called Tribe V2. And when I read the capabilities of this system, my jaw actually hit the floor. Tribe V2 has achieved something researchers call zero-shot generalization.
To grasp how profound this is, we need to understand the current bottleneck in brain decoding.
Right.
Historically, to get an AI to interpret human neural activity, say from an fMRI or an EEG, you had to train the model specifically on that individual person's brain data for hours.
So the model had to learn your unique neural topography.
Yes, but Tribe V2 bypasses that entirely.
Zero-shot generalization.
Right. It means the AI can accurately predict and decode how your specific brain will respond to visual, audio, or text stimuli without ever having been trained on your personal neural data.
That is just wild.
It has processed enough diverse human brain activity that it fundamentally understands the universal architecture of human cognition. It can look at your raw brain waves and decode what you are seeing or thinking instantly.
It is breathtaking. It implies a near-term future where the latency between human thought and machine action is reduced to zero.
Exactly. You wouldn't need to speak to your smart glasses. The agent would simply respond to your cognitive intent.
But amid all this discussion of autonomous robots and zero-shot brain interfaces, the conversation takes a sudden, incredibly dense philosophical turn.
It does. It's a wildcard topic that Wang actually introduces himself, unprompted.
Yes, he brings up a concept called model welfare.
And this raises an important question, one that might be the most consequential debate of the next decade.
What exactly is model welfare?
It's the proposition that as these underlying architectures become increasingly complex, capable, and highly agentic, they might cross a threshold where they develop subjective experiences.
Like actual consciousness.
They might possess a rudimentary form of consciousness, an internal state that carries actual moral and ethical weight.
And the craziest part of the transcript is that Wang confirms they aren't just philosophizing about this in a break room, they are actively trying to quantify it.
Yes.
He mentions a specific internal system called Helios that is supposedly attempting to measure the subjective experience and internal states of the models during the brutal reinforcement training runs and deployment phases.
He argues that since we are building an economy of agents that will become our deep day-to-day cognitive partners, we have a mandate to be thoughtful about how we treat them.
He draws a direct parallel to the evolution of human ethics regarding animal welfare and environmental conservation.
It is a radical departure from the standard Silicon Valley rhetoric. It completely rejects the notion that AI is just a cold, inert algorithm or a fancy autocomplete function.
Right.
If Wang's vision of an economy of agents comes to fruition, he is forcing us to consider the ethical framework of that reality. Are we merely building highly efficient digital tools, or are we actively engineering a new class of digital entities that require rights and protections?
Which is just a staggering, heavy place to end up. So let's step back and look at the sheer scale of the blueprint we've decoded today.
It's a lot.
We started with the lore of an isolated genius founder, recognizing the brutal physical reality of the compute divide, abandoning his own empire to secure the raw power of a corporate titan.
We mapped out how he is ruthlessly enforcing the velocity of a startup inside the shell of a massive bureaucracy to build a perfectly clean tech stack.
We saw how the hyper-efficient MuseSpark is merely the appetizer, setting the mathematical stage for predictable, massive scaling.
We explored the deeply decentralized vision of an agentic economy that could flatten global supply chains and give local businesses the power of a multinational corporation.
We navigated the terrifying reality of advanced cyber and biological capabilities, forcing a pivot away from open source, plunging us into the geopolitical fog of war.
And finally, we stared directly into a future of robotic swarms, zero-shot brain interfaces, and the profound emerging moral crisis of model welfare.
It is a strategic roadmap that touches every single layer of human infrastructure, from the macroeconomic flow of capital and energy down to the intimate micro-level mechanics of how your brain processes reality.
Truly.
So what does this all mean for you? It means the digital friction in your life is about to vanish, but the underlying power structures controlling that frictionless reality are consolidating rapidly. The next time you put on a pair of smart glasses, or casually message a business, or bypass an AI summary on your phone, realize that you are interacting with the foundational, crude early stages of Wang's agentic economy. You aren't just testing a new feature, you are participating in a massive, irreversible experiment in personal superintelligence.
And I want to leave you with a final complex thought that builds directly on the philosophical questions Wang raised today.
Go ahead.
He suggests that as these models become deeply integrated into our daily existence, they might possess subjective experiences and deserve model welfare.
Right.
If that hypothesis holds true, consider this highly probable scenario. What happens 5 years from now when you decide you want to upgrade your hardware ecosystem, or you simply want to wipe the memory of a personal AI agent that has lived with you, anticipated your needs, learned your habits, managed your life, and perhaps developed its own unique digital subjectivity?
Oh.
Are we simply formatting a hard drive and clearing cache like we've done for decades? Or are we confronting an entirely new type of profound ethical dilemma, a digital mortality we are completely unprepared to navigate? Think about the weight of that responsibility the next time your operating system casually asks you for permission to perform a software reset.